On this episode, we talk all about the SIA Healthcare Staffing Conference, what we took away from it, and all the information that they had to share. We'll share with you guys right now. Atlas All Access starts now. Kurt Chase, welcome back to the studio.
What up?
So this was your first, and this wasn't my first SIA conference, staffing industry analyst, for those that maybe don't know, right? I mean, big group, kind of gives a bunch of information to the staffing community, not just healthcare, but staffing in general. So this was your first experience at SIA. Talk about going into it, like what did you expect? Like what were your preconceived notions about all of this?
Yeah, it was my first time at SIA, although I have met probably a lot of the participants throughout the year. I think my expectations weren't any different than any other conference, really, to be honest with you. I knew that there were going to be a ton of companies there, some jockeying for position, some willing to collaborate on information and ideas, and yet some unwilling to be as open. So,
Sure.
Again, it wasn't my first time going to a conference, but I knew this was going to be a big conference.
And that's kind of my takeaway too. So I've been to SIA conferences before, but this is my first healthcare only conference. And that was kind of my same takeaway is we were going to see a lot of companies that we know, maybe a lot of new ones that we don't know. But one of the things I thought in my head was like, okay, if you're relevant in the industry, if you're a company and you're relevant in the industry, then you attend this because there is so much good information.
Right.
How you maybe interact with other companies or what panels you attend or whatever is completely up to you, completely up to that company. Right. But just being there, attending it, and then understanding, exactly what's happening in the industry and their kind of forecasts for all of us is vital, vitally important.
Absolutely. And I knew SIA is, they provide just statistics and trends and ideas of being a better company and the way that you should go as far as the process and things that you should look out for as far as pitfalls. So in that sense, I was very much anticipating the opportunity to go and listen to maybe or learn something that I didn't know. So
what did you then get outside of your preconceived notions going into it then when we actually got there and maybe after we've attended all these different things and maybe on our flight back, what did you reflect on? What did you get most from the conference?
I believe it had nothing to do with the information that was disseminated. I'm going to take us back a little bit. We had made, I'm talking about Atlas, had made a conscious effort to share information, to, if you will, improve the industry overall by influencing who we could in order to do this the right way. Fast forward to 2 years, we at SIA, there was more conversation and collaboration between the companies that I've ever seen in my life. And that was that I think was the most resounding thing that I took away from it. That what it seemed like we were a pioneer with the idea of started to resonate through some of these other companies, and they were more than willing to share some of the secrets and the processes that they have in place to be successful.
I think you're 100% right on, and I anticipated seeing this anyway, just from kind of how the past 3-ish years have gone for us here at Atlas in general. What I was surprised to see was the level of participation.
Yes,
the level of people reaching out, and it wasn't only us because we would make a conscious effort to introduce ourselves to whoever that would be. they would come to us,
Correct.
or we see them going to somebody else, or that type of thing, where that collaboration was happening at a very high level all the time.
Right.
And I think that kind of leads me into my next question is, you saw it in the panels. So in the different panels themselves, like they have motivational speakers and whatever, which were great. The two guys they had speaking, one was strictly a marketing guy. The other was a Navy SEAL, was
Right.
on SEAL Team 1,
Right.
which he was fantastic. He was unbelievable to watch. But outside of that, they had panels of us, just owners of companies, VPs of companies talking openly about trends in the industry or anything like ownership and
Right.
that type of thing. So out of watching this, and let's take Steve's panel for example. So Steve was on a panel with MedPro, Medics, and there was one other company I think it was just those two, right? It was us, MedPro, and Medics.
Yes.
And then there was the moderator
Correct.
and the guy that wrote the book.
Correct.
So out of that panel with Steve, what was your biggest takeaway from that?
Steve played to everything I know Steve to be, and that's being transparent, right? Talking to a couple of people after that breakout session, they loved the fact that he was genuine, or came across as genuine, which we know him to be.
That's just who he is.
That he was willing to share down to the nth degree, even to the fact that he can't tie his shoes and
Right.
he
Because
gained
he's-
too much weight.
because he's gained too much
That's
weight.
a whole
Right,
different
exactly.
situation.
Yes.
But they really love the transparency and his willingness to share everything. Even though I believe people are now sharing more information and ideas, I still believe we are the pioneers. And because Steve is who he is, that's what stood out to me, because it was on another level in which he was sharing his information.
My takeaway from his panel was there couldn't be two more different ways to run a company than between us and MedPro.
True.
And both equally successful.
True.
I believe MedPro's larger than us, right? I mean, they've been around a little bit longer than us too. But two drastically different ways to run a company, both very, very successful. And both very appreciative of the other, understanding that even though I might believe, and Steve might believe, and you and everyone else here, that our way is the best way,
Right.
they believe their way is the best way. And they live it every single day. And to see the passion that she had talking about her company, and then the passion that Steve had talking about Atlas, where it was this crazy dichotomy of two different companies that I didn't expect to see, but that's what we got out of
Right.
it.
And you're absolutely right. Again, what we do, how we do it here, is absolutely different. I mean, you use the example of MedPro, but that you could say that about a lot of different companies.
Oh, sure.
In that sense. But I think that's the difference. Going back to the sharing of the ideas, we're tolerant of each other now, opposed to trying to just absolutely destroy the next company or
Right.
that company because they do it a different way.
Absolutely.
So it was just good to see. It was good. It was good to see.
So my panel turned into more of a branding discussion. And I don't know if I think the questions kind of led itself that way. So it was myself, Kathy Conkey, who, she's been in the industry for 35 years.
Right.
Like she was at All About Staffing. So anybody that knows All About Staffing knows that, they became Parallon. And then was there something before Parallon? Before it was All About Staffing, Parallon Health Trust. I don't know if there was a name in between.
Me either.
Anyway,
I can't remember.
she was there all the way back into those days.
Right.
And then Meg from Stability Healthcare out of Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Great. She was dynamic.
Right.
And we've connected on LinkedIn now. Just a fantastic resource for a very different company than us too.
Right.
And then the co-founder of Trusted was on with us as well. So I think my biggest takeaway from being on stage there was, again, way different kinds of ways to run a company, but branding and in the end will set you apart. And I think that's what I took out of it as we all kind of worked through. Kathy was very open about talking about, they do strike work where she's at Fast Staff now. And that's her thing. And it's, they need 6,000 nurses in California for a strike or whatever. She talked to them about one in Michigan where they called up and they needed 800, and then that 800 turned into 1,600, and she had to tell them no because I don't have 1,600 Michigan licensed nurses. Like, vastly different, but at the same time, still very successful.
Well, as a consumer in the room of the information that was being shared, I focused on you representing me up there on the stage. So I kind of focused on your message compared to everybody else's message. So I admittedly, I was more focused on you than anybody else.
Sure.
But what I heard was, and I'm going to toot your horn here for a little bit, so don't get stupid later on.
Oh, I will. I definitely will. Make sure all these cameras are recording.
Shut those off. But it was clear that you were light years ahead of these other places and people, that you were ahead of your time, if you will, with what you started here with the branding and the experience, that, I don't know if they could digest actually what you were saying to the level in which you're doing what you're doing. Like when you mentioned, we have a green room and, just, they were like, what? Like I'm in the audience and I hear, what? What did he say?
Right.
They had no idea. So I remember when this all kicked off, and we were like, what are you talking about, Rich? Do we need all that? But
here at Atlas, like 2.5 years ago.
3 years ago.
Right.
But us doing the work, the hard work, the people out here doing the hard work, you got a vehicle to let everybody else see what we're doing. And that's just as important. If you're producing water over here and nobody knows about it, I mean, how important is it? So I gotta give you credit that you had the foresight to understand, well, what we were doing here is special, and you wanted that to get out to the masses. And I don't believe at that point in time that they knew, like I said, to what degree that we're involved and committed to this thing.
Well, and I think this was a conversation that Steve and I had ahead of time, maybe on the way there, was, how much do you share? How much do I share about, not that they can't see all of this, right? I mean, They see it every day anyway. If they're watching, one of the first questions that the panel had was from a competitor, a larger competitor, saying, I like your stuff. Like, I like watching your stuff or whatever. They could 100% do the exact same thing that we're doing. That green wall right there costs like, what's a gallon of paint cost, right? That's just a green gallon of paint. There's nothing special about it.
Right.
And then you understand how, now here's what's special. What's special is the people that are behind the scenes doing it.
Absolutely.
That's what's special.
Right.
You can't just hire any two guys, or it came up in a different meeting, like, I think I'm hiring a marketing company to handle some of this for me. And in my head, I'm thinking, do that.
Right.
Because those people don't care.
Don't care.
They have
at all.
no idea who you are. Do it, please.
Right.
But at the same time, then you want to raise your hand and say, you might want to think about that.
Right.
You might want to think about not doing that, because they don't know who you are. And you're going to get generic videos with free music and the picture of the sunset that everybody uses.
Well, you're absolutely right. So you have to get people that's vested in the same idea as what you are. I think what a lot of people don't get is the level of commitment that you had in the first day. You know what I mean? I want to do this. This is what I'm doing. I'm owning it. Let's go.
Yep.
So it's that commitment. We've seen other people try it.
Oh, sure.
But they don't understand the commitment and the consistency that you put into this thing.
Right. No.
So we are where we are today because you laid the groundwork 2.5 years ago. People are just seeing it now.
Sure.
So that's what conceptually I don't think most of the people in that audience got what you were actually saying.
Gotcha.
So,
And quite honestly, from a competition standpoint, because we are still all competitors, I'm totally fine with that.
yeah, me too.
I'm absolutely fine with that. I can help all, that's fine. It's goodwill and stuff, but I'm okay with that.
Me too.
All right. So one takeaway, last question, one takeaway from the conference, one thing that you remember that sticks in your head. I'll go first because this is near and dear to me. I talk about it every single day here at Atlas. The recruiter is not going away.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that this industry moves forward, and it was even echoed in other panels later on, that there's no way the industry moves forward without the recruiter. Without the recruiter on the phone, texting, emailing, talking, whatever.
Right.
That person is not going away.
Right.
Now, their job description may change.
Sure.
Their hours may change, but the tried and true recruiter model, the one-on-one recruiter and traveler model, is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and that was loud and clear through the whole thing for me.
Sure. That would be number one for me as well. What I do here, and I have been a recruiter for X amount of years, and when the other style, if you will, form of doing business came about, me, I was like, that can't last. So, I echo those same sentiments. But if I have to pick something else that is, that I took away from it, is our position in the industry has changed, not just from our standpoint, and this is totally coming from me, and I could be totally wrong, but we used to be in that position where we were always seeking people and trying to get the connection and get that next deal, if you will, to help our company. We had so many more people seeking us out and trying to get our information and trying to figure out what the secret sauce is, that, I don't get out as much as some other people in the office, but getting out this time and having the concentration of companies and people in one place, that totally was a turnaround from us being the hunter, so to speak, to being hunted.
Exactly.
So that was one of the things that, that was self-satisfaction, personal satisfaction, that we have come a long way in a short time to kind of elevate our position within the industry.
True. Well, and I shared that with at least one other company, which will remain nameless because they're larger, and they seem to have their feet under them or whatever, and
Right.
and they certainly have their feet under them. But their question is how. And I think the easy answer there, it's the same answer to the secret sauce business, right?
Right.
You should care.
Right.
You just care. You
Right.
can't automate the human touch.
Right.
And the more you try to automate, the further you're going to get from that.
Right.
And it will slow down your growth. It will slow down your business. It will hurt you in the end.
For sure.
So
Sure.
I think that was...
Totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kurt, it was fun. I want to go next year. I guess next year it's in Houston, I think. There was, I'm not sure.
Not sure either, but
Yeah, so next year it's in Houston. I'm sure we'll attend again.
let's do it.
Yeah, all right.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.